So think 1980s famous U.S. athletes, like big in the 80s. Like you would only know this person if you were alive in the 80s.
I was alive in the 80s as a Canadian infant. I promise you I wasn't up on the United States Olympic athletes.
Gotta guess.
Okay. No sport. We're just gonna say the Olympics is
Gymnastics.
See.
I don't know. I don't even have a pretend answer, you guys. And as listeners will know, the Olympics are my strong suit.
Speaking of getting the party started.
For the victory lap, though. They ain't never seen nothing like this before. Lit the room when I came through the front door. Ask me if I stress overcome, what for? Train under trees, please walk my sycamore. Touch burning sands, cross lands, and stormy shore seasons in the year, yeah. Switch gears, we keeping haters in the rear. At the blood, sweat, and tears, and my goal so near. I see my victory so clear. I see my victory so clear. And today, we break through. 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 And today, we break through.
It's time for another episode of the Gridiron Podcast. It's episode 21. We haven't podcasted. I think it's podcast, like broadcast, right? In 3-ish weeks, and a lot has happened since then, but we're back. We don't have a million topics to discuss, which is probably good for the runtime of this podcast, but we got some interesting, some important, some might even say essential topics to discuss here on episode 21 of the Gridiron Podcast. I'm Nick Shook. If you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, or where you should always watch us, you will see to my right is Katie Caldwell, and below us is Sean Barie. How we doing, folks?
Not well, Bob. Not great, Bob.
Sean,
I was waiting for Sean to answer first. What happened,
no.
Sean?
Yeah, what happened, Sean?
We're recording. It is December the 7th in the year of our Lord 2023 at 11:36 p.m. And Thursday night football just wrapped up. Were they playing football? Do we know? Like, has that been confirmed? Was that an actual game of American football? Because I don't know. Watching the Patriots and the Steelers try and do football for 3.5 hours. It was atrocious. It was a horrible game. It was a horrible game of football.
I sense a little Steeler bias here because you lost to the Patriots, a team that couldn't even muster more than 6 points in last week's loss to the Chargers. But I mean, these teams racked up nearly 600 yards of total offense between them, but they couldn't convert fourth downs. I think they were 7 of 28 on third down combined, something like that. Let's see, 4 of 13, 7 of 27. Pittsburgh 3 of 14. Sean, I know you're frustrated. I can sense it. It's spilling out of you. It's oozing out of every pore like you need medical assistance. Okay. And I understand it's all consuming. You don't know what to do with your football team. They fired Matt Canada. You don't have a scapegoat anymore. And yet they've now lost 2 straight games to teams that you circled on your schedule, even in the last month as wins.
At one point, I think the headlines were, who from ESPN said, someone said the Steelers have woken up after they beat the Bengals 16-10. In my mind, I'm thinking, okay, let's pump the brakes there. Things looked a little bit better. They looked a little bit more lively after firing Matt Canada. You're right. There's no scapegoat right now, but we don't need one. I think there's 53 of them, and they can each look at themselves in the mirror and go, what can I do to get better? Because what I just witnessed was a team that is in the process of giving up, that hasn't given up, but is in the process of giving up. You have Deontay Johnson and George Pickens sulking on the sideline. You've got guys shaking their heads, and the play calling is still atrocious. And I knew that wasn't going to change overnight just because you hire an interim offensive coordinators. You have an offensive coordinator, and then you have a play caller.
Yeah.
I knew this wasn't going to change overnight because the playbook is still the same. It's still the same crappy playbook. So this is going to take a lot of time to rectify. Hopefully the offseason is enough. But what we just witnessed was I mean, absolutely atrocious. The Patriots did everything in their power to give the game to the Steelers. And the Steelers were like, nah, fam, we're good. We're good.
Katie is reveling in your disappointment right now.
I said to you guys at the very beginning, I'm like, I don't even think I have it in me to turn this game on.
Neither did I, but I had to. You understand, I had to.
Well, I do. I couldn't believe when we first were talking about it. You said, no, I'm not watching. I'm giving my dog a bath. Well, your favorite team is playing on primetime.
It's like washing the dishes.
I had it on for a bit just because we were doing the pod tonight. I'm only so strong of a woman. I had to change the channel. How painful was that? Mitch Trubisky just had, and I'm not here to dunk on Mitch. He's doing his best.
No, please.
Everybody's doing their best.
Dunk on Mitch.
It was such a tough watch, and you have the crowd just chanting for Mason Rudolph as if he's going to come in and just be a miracle worker.
Mason's like, nah, I'm good. I'm good right here.
Record. Everybody knows that. They're just, this was like a clash of two very painful teams to watch. And I just had zero interest in putting Thursday Night Football on. Although people
one of these teams, Katie, was supposed to have woken up.
Yeah, allegedly. I didn't have that much faith. People dunk on Al Michaels on Twitter for how he just doesn't have it in him for a lot of these games. And I respect the hustle. I love it so much. I love watching Al just grind through these games because he's seen it all. And this was a really painful watch. And I couldn't get through the whole thing. But yeah, what a gift it must be being a Steelers fan right now, Sean.
More like a lump of coal as we head into the holiday season. I'll tell you this. I was eating dinner and we had the game on, and my girlfriend goes, are they even going to talk about the game anymore? Because there was a 5-minute period where they just had the camera on Bill Belichick. Will he be back? Won't he be back? Will he be traded? Will he be fired? Will he go to a TV booth or something? Where they missed a punt and a first down.
The punt was back. It was muffed too.
And they come back, and it's now 2nd and 4. I'm like, they punted? Wait, I missed the punt and I missed they didn't show it because they were just talking about Bill Belichick because that's all they had to do towards the end of the first half because nothing was happening.
Yeah, the funniest part about that was they launched into that with 30 seconds left in the half, and it was there's definitely not enough space to discuss this thoroughly. And Kirk's trying to jump in, and he's like, yeah, you're right. There's a lot to discuss here, but I guess we'll get after it after halftime because the half is over.
I'd like to, drink to forget. Cheers.
So here's the thing, Sean. Last week you could have blamed the loss of the Cardinals on the 3 weather delays. That made a lot of sense. And the week prior when they beat the Bengals, it was Jake Browning's first start. And you're like, okay, well, they won. They fired their offensive coordinator. Maybe things are looking a little bit better. But you knew deep down they weren't any better. But this is unexplainable. Mitch Trubisky throws a horrid interception. The Patriots quickly go up 14-3. I get home from the gym. It's 21-3. I'm like, what? This is going to be a runaway win for a team.
Now, I will say
5 points.
Bailey Zappi's 3rd touchdown of the night was on a rope to Hunter Henry and was just chef's kiss. You couldn't throw a better football. DeMonte Kazee was in the perfect position. Logic says you don't throw that football because the safety can come over the top. And I mean, that ball was just perfectly placed. Seriously, I don't want to take anything away from Bailey Zappi on that touchdown drive alone. But after that, again, Pittsburgh was given every opportunity to come back into this game. And you're right, Nick, it is absolutely inexcusable. Let me read you a quote from the Mike Tomlin press conference that just happened, by the way, because he was asked, how confident is he this team can bounce back? And he said, quote, "This is what we do. This is who we are." True. But what are you talking about? Are you talking about the team that just lost back-to-back 2-win teams? Or are you talking about a team that can turn things around into December? Because right now I'm not seeing a team that can turn anything around. I'm seeing a team that doesn't even believe in itself. And that's part of the problem because in the back of my mind is Mike Tomlin starting to lose the locker room.
Oh, and that's what I worried about when you said they were and this is
who we are. This is what we do. I don't know if anyone in that locker room right now believes that is who they are and this is what they can do, meaning they can turn things around because it just looks bleak right now.
I think when your two offensive weapons at receiver are sulking through multiple games, like 3 games now, you have a problem. You have a quarterback problem because you don't have a Ben Roethlisberger to cover up all the problems, all the ugliness within your roster. You have Kenny Pickett, who can't stay healthy. You have Mitch Trubisky, who cannot play adequately as a backup, even though they nearly came back and won the game tonight. And you have Mason Rudolph, and we know what Mason Rudolph is. Like that.
I don't want to blame. I don't want to blame the Steelers not having a Ben Roethlisberger. Who has a Ben Roethlisberger? A handful of teams in the league, right? Look at all the teams that have backup quarterbacks this year, or quarterbacks that are journeymen. You look at Baker Mayfield. You look at Gardner Minshew. You look at Jake Browning. You look at Bailey Zappi for one half of football. You look at all these guys that are finding success in the backup role, and teams that are finding success in the backup role. For the love of God, Cleveland has Joe Flacco starting at quarterback.
Who looks good.
Yes.
Like, don't come to me and say, well, it's because they don't have a Ben Roethlisberger. No one does, and everyone's banged up right now. Like, the quarterback matchups this week are going to be insane.
In a bad way. I mean, you don't have a Joe Flacco. You don't have a Joe Flacco. You don't have.
I kind of wish I did right now.
Yeah, I know. I think the Jets do too. Actually, this kind of reminds me of the Jets in that they went to Tim Boyle just because Zach Wilson wasn't any good, and then they realized Tim Boyle sucks. They go to Trevor Siemian, they realize he sucked. Now they're going back to Zach Wilson. Like the Steelers are kind of close to that. But Sean, I got to say, and this is going to upset you, but I have to say this: as Bailey Zappi threw his second touchdown pass of the first half, the first one to Hunter Henry, in my head, all I could think of was when we went back to training camp preview. And we did the AFC East, and we had Greg Rosenthal, friend of the show, on the podcast. And you hit him with a one-liner for the ages. Are you a fan of the Mac Attack, or does Zappy make you happy? And I'm sitting there thinking, Zappy's making the Patriots happy tonight, folks.
And then in the second half, he turned back into a pumpkin.
Yeah, because that's who he is. And I mean, if you watched the game last week, you knew what to expect. That's why it was so shocking that he was able to find success early. Look, the silver lining of this is that Bill Belichick's defense has done this to a lot of quarterbacks this season,
right.
Spanning different levels of ability. Justin Herbert and the Chargers put 6 points on the board last week. Luckily, that was enough to win. Sorry, Katie, your team. That stick a fork in the Chargers, by the way. That also is a good segue.
Oh, we'll get into that.
Yeah, if you have anything else to add, we're going to talk about teams that have forks lodged deeply within them. But Sean, do you have anything else to wrap up your it is gruesome. A lot of these seasons are gruesome for some of these teams. Anything else to add to your Steelers losing in an upset fashion to a team that has no business winning games?
Fire Canada. That's it. Fire Canada.
Well, unfortunately, that already happened. All right. We will transition to, instead of doing winners and losers, we've missed a few weeks. And frankly, we're at the point in the season now where the losers are the losers with records. Like,
there's so many losers.
Yeah, like it's separation time in the NFL. Contenders from pretenders. A lot of the losers have already been resigned to their fate. So instead of doing winners and losers this week or from the last few weeks, Sean came up with a fantastic idea. Let's talk hot seats. Whose butt's getting real warm right now? Who in the NFL?
Now, hold on. I have an idea, and we can do this on the fly, or we can just do what we originally thought and just, guess whether or not a coach will have a seat next week or next year. I would like to do it 12 Angry Men style. I would like to propose a name. Someone says why they will have a seat next year, and someone says why they will not have a seat next year.
All right, well, cue up the fire. The hot seat's cooking. Let's go, Sean. Start it off.
Oh, hold on. There we go.
There we go. And now if you have a strobe sensitivity,
Sean,
now
that has to go immediately.
Okay. Coming in dang buttons on this remote.
For those not watching on YouTube or Twitch, apparently Sean's Christmas tree has a rave setting where it just flashes like crazy and makes me very uncomfortable.
All right, we're going to start off here. On the coaching hot seat carousel, first up, Nick, you are going to tell me why this person will have a job next year. Katie, you are going to tell me why this person will not have a job next year.
What if I don't believe they will?
I mean, even a defense attorney needs to represent his client, Nick. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Honestly, if you don't think they're going to have a job, just tell me. It's okay. First up on the chopping block, it's Matt Eberflus.
Good luck, Nick. Godspeed.
Why will he have a job? Oh God. Because the Bears
And that's all you need to know about Matt Eberflus. Katie.
Yeah.
I just feel like if you've watched the Chicago Bears, you've seen enough. I just think he's likely done. I'm so uninspired by this team. Josina Anderson reported this week that the Bears are expected to have interest in Eric Bieniemy, which I'm sure we'll talk about that team later. But yeah, if you've watched a Bears game, it's such a mess. It's so discombobulated. I don't know what the situation is going to be with Justin Fields. I'm just very sad whenever I watch the Bears. So yeah, something's got to change.
Can I chime in on the Fields thing real quick? Because before you even give your approval, I'm just going to launch right into it. He had a 2-game stretch where he looked awesome, and then he got hurt, and he has not looked good since he's been back. There are a lot of issues with this offense. The offensive line is number one. Number two is the fact they can't get the running game going, and the receivers don't get open. But when things kind of work, they usually work like way better than they should. And I think a lot of that is due to Justin Fields. And I think that they are going to split with him, much like they're going to split with their coach and potentially their GM. But I think there's a really nice home for him down in Georgia where the Falcons could use somebody like that. And the Bears are going to look like idiots for moving on from him. Keep an eye on that. He's going to have a really nice second act in his career when he's in the right situation. And the Bears are going to end up with egg on their face for moving on from him.
I agree.
Good luck to Caleb Williams or whatever quarterback they draft. My God, it's not going to be any better.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Katie. I think Matt Eberflus is gone. I mean, he literally is like the epitome of a lame duck coach, like a dead man walking at this point. And I agree with you, Nick. Like, I want to see more of Justin Fields. There's this feeling in the pit of my gut that we just haven't seen enough of him. Like, we know what he is, kind of, but like, I still don't know what he can be. And that's what I'm interested to find out. Next up, Katie, you are against this man. Nick,
wait. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Coley sent me this earlier, and it's great. And I would share it on the screen, but I can't send it in time for this to happen. So Eberflus did a press conference today, per usual, Thursday. And the teams live stream it. And somebody was live streaming it on, I think, either TikTok or Instagram Live. And Coley sent me a screenshot of somebody chiming in the chat live that says, "Enjoy your last few weeks in Chicago, you pud whacker."
Oh man, that guy's about to get jiggle bagged.
What's the role in the show?
Whacker.
You can pud whack, but never get jiggle bagged. All right, Sean, next thing.
He's gonna have fun at the Kentucky Duckin'.
Doesn't everyone? Except for when the horses die.
We know.
Next up,
Jesus.
Katie,
that was dark.
You are against this man. Nick, you are for this man. Falcons coach Arthur Smith.
You go, Nick.
I'm for Arthur Smith. He has in back-to-back seasons coached them to 7-10 finishes, and if you look at their record right now, listen, they have had a less than full cupboard. Right now, they're in first place in the NFC South, the dreadful NFC South at 6-6. And if Desmond Ridder can play just good enough, they just might win the division. And if they win the division, they can't fire their coach, no matter how bad they are, no matter how much their philosophy of team building and execution does not work. If they stay in the playoff race all the way to the end and make it interesting, I have a hard time thinking that he'll be gone, even if I think that he should be gone.
Well, and to play the opposite card of that, because it's this division, if you don't win this unbelievably pathetic division, I understand why that's cause for firing right there. I have questions about how he's used some of his players. Many people have talked about that. And I don't even have any of them on my fantasy teams, where a lot of them I feel like is kind of unfairly put on him because of their fantasy numbers. But especially because he's supposed to be such an offensive mastermind. Personally, I'm just at a point in my journey where I would love to see what someone else could do with this roster.
Okay, I think we flip-flopped there because, Nick, you were supposed to say why he was going to be fired, and Katie, you were supposed to say why he was going to be Yeah, we kind of flip-flopped there. That's okay, though. Both valid arguments. I'm going to rule in favor of Nick. I think he will be gone. Actually, no, I'm sorry, Katie. Now I got flip-flopped. I'm ruling in favor of Katie. I believe Arthur Smith will be gone, even if they do win the division, because, man, what are you doing down there in Atlanta? Let's head a little bit further south into my neck of the woods. Todd Bowles on the hot seat. All right. What are the Bucs now? 5-8, 5-7, sitting at 5-7. Nick, why will Todd Bowles be in Tampa next year?
Okay, so I'm sticking on this side. Same thing as the Falcons. If they can find a way, okay, actually, he will be there because he made a great hire in Dave Canales, who I think has done wonders with an offense that has not.
A lot of
lived
people
up.
down here would disagree with you, Nick.
Yeah, well, they don't understand what the deck they're dealing with right now. They had to rebuild their offensive line. They got a rookie playing guard in Cody Mock. They haven't been able to run the ball for most of the season. They've started to figure out how to run the ball in the last couple of weeks. It has helped their offense. Baker Mayfield's playing some of the best football he's played since 2018 or 2020. And that all that's credit to Dave Canales. Even if most of it just looks like deep shots to Mike Evans, I think he's worked magic with a team that would be a lot worse if he was not offensive coordinator. And credit goes to Todd Bowles for making that hire. The defense has not lived up to expectation on a consistent basis. This team has just been generally inconsistent. But if they are able to win the division, which if I had to pick out of any of these teams, it's probably, God, don't feel confident in any of them. I can't say that truthfully about any of them. I'm just going to let the chaos ensue. If they win the division, he'll stick around because I don't think that there's they're not going to get rid of Jason Light and the GM. And I just don't Bowles doesn't inspire me. It reminds me a lot of how we went out in New York, but they're in contention for a division. And it's hard to argue with that considering all the circumstances of losing Tom Brady and having to try to remake your roster and everything else. So I feel like he'll be there if they win the division.
Katie, why will Todd Bowles not be in Tampa next year?
See, this is why I struggle with this exercise, just changing on the fly, because I think he will be. I'm going to be honest. I'm shocked that he's on so many hot seat lists. I think he's going to be fine. I get what people are saying. I just think it's a little early. I'm a fan of Todd Bowles, though. So, Sean, what you are
You're
covering
a terrible
this team,
prosecutor, Katie.
I understand that. Actually, no, I would be a very good prosecutor, but I have to believe in the cause.
Okay, Elwoods,
is it the glasses?
Yeah,
is that why you'd be
glasses.
A good prosecutor?
It's the Elwoods persona, the glasses.
She'd do the little
yeah.
Actually, according to Title 7, Section 3, Note 2, you were in violation of the law.
Well, and you guys know I used to work in law, right? Before I went back to sports school.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah,
learn something new every day. Oh,
what? It's hard.
Touche.
Sean, you cover this team. Give us your Todd Bowles thoughts because you're closer to the situation than we are.
I'm really up in the air about it because there are bad losses and then there are good wins. At the same time, like you said, Nick, Jason Light's not going anywhere, so I don't think Todd Bowles will either. I mean, you're asking a man to go out and win a division with Baker Mayfield and a questionable offense, a questionable team. The defense was supposed to be the bread and butter this year. It has not been, and they have had a lot of injuries. Jamel Dean, Levante David, Devin White have all been banged up. Injuries have been a problem on this defense. But here's the thing. Even when the defense has been healthy, it has been at times subpar. Devin White, bet on himself this year. Fine, I'll play out the final year of my contract after requesting a trade. I'm going to show you that you owe me money. I'm going to show other NFL teams what I'm worth. Talk about fumbling a bag. Oh, my goodness. He is playing himself into a less and less of a contract every time he touches the field, unfortunately for him. But I don't know if any of that is Todd Bowles' fault. So I don't know what the future holds. If I had to guess, I would think that he will still be here next year.
Yeah,
if they win the division.
If you look at their schedule.
If they falter down the stretch, then he will be gone.
They have one bad loss, and it's Atlanta. Philly, Detroit, Buffalo, Houston, San Francisco, and even Indianapolis. Those are all understandable losses.
Yeah, Nick, but the way the team was talking, the way the city was talking when they played those games, they fully expected to compete and maybe even beat Philadelphia. They fully expected to
and they're idiots for that.
Beat the Lions.
They're idiots for that.
They showed that they are still a class below them.
Yeah.
So
but that's the
I don't know.
class.
This is a tricky one. Flip a coin. This is one of the tricky ones. So
I'm happy we're getting this division out of the way because I feel
we have a hung jury here.
It could go either way with any of these coaches simply because the division is so bad and somebody technically has to win it.
Yeah.
I declare a mistrial.
Exactly. Speaking of this division, I had Frank Reich on here when I made this list originally, but he's already been fired. So I was correct about him. I thought he would be fired. So
great job.
He's
gone.
We
should also add that 2 coaches have already been fired. So, just keep that.
Frank Reich. And who's the second one?
Josh McDaniels.
Josh McDaniels. That happened a while ago, though. All right, let's stay in the division. Dennis Allen up in New Orleans. Nowlands. Nick, why will Dennis Allen be fired?
Because he never should have been hired in the first place. His tenure with the Raiders and Derek Carr should have told you everything you needed to know about how it was going to go in New Orleans. I think that the Saints made a knee-jerk decision to hire the defensive coordinator that worked under Sean Payton because they wanted to maintain and preserve consistency, and all it's gotten them is average at best play. They've changed quarterbacks. The results have not been much better. Derek Carr is coming on as of late, but that defense is not as good as it was in recent years, and that's supposed to be his bread and butter. And they're just kind of a team that's just floating out there right now, and on a week-to-week basis, I don't know who I'm going to get. Am I going to get a team that goes toe-to-toe with the Lions after falling behind early, or am I going to get a team that sucks against the Falcons? I don't know. And if I don't know, that should tell you everything you need to know about the coach and his situation. So long, Dennis Allen. We'll see you when we see you.
Understood. Katie, when or why will Dennis Allen stay in New Orleans?
See, this is why I suck at being a prosecutor in this exercise, because I think he is an outstanding defensive coordinator, but I just don't think he's cut out to be a head coach in my heart of hearts.
Okay,
and
you're
it's really hard.
supposed to be defending him right now, Katie.
I understand that. But when I watch this
Counselor.
I understand. I just lost my job at the law firm in the last 10 minutes because when I watch the Saints, they too just make me feel a bit like underwhelmed. There are bright spots sometimes, but overall, I just don't think that he's cut out to be a head coach in the National Football League.
You know what Katie wouldn't be good at in the court of law? Defense attorney.
Yeah, for real, like a public.
Katie would be assigned
a prosecutor or
heinous mass murderer, and she'd go in there and just be like, "I'm not even going to plead insanity. This guy just deserves to be locked up regardless. Put him away."
He tells her like attorney-client privilege. She's like, "Yeah, I killed all those people." She walks into the court. He murdered all of them. Counselor, that's your defendant. Don't care.
I feel what I feel, okay?
I'm paid by the state, and I'm saving you tax dollars by cutting to the chase. Let's move on.
Sorry, right. I'm an honest woman.
All right. Katie, you will like this one now.
This one I feel like I might have some feelings about.
So, Katie, tell me, why will Brandon Staley stay in – I'm kidding. Why will Brandon Staley be fired next year? This is your team. Go for it.
I can't, well, will and should are two different things, but okay, kids, let me just start. I've been honking about this since January 8th of last season when he played his starters in a meaningless game and both Mike Williams and Joey Bosa left the game. I've talked about this before. My feelings have only solidified. The next week, they're up 27-0 on the Jags, and they find a way to lose that game in the playoffs. Okay, fine. In theory, you learn from that. Well, the Chargers are 5-7, and they look like one of the worst teams in the entire league. Brandon Staley is supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach. Well, I'm sorry, your defense looks awful, and Justin Herbert's prime years are being wasted with this defense. At this rate in the season, it's a total write-off. You have Kellen Moore sitting there, so why not see what you have in him? You're not making the playoffs. I'm sorry. Why not see what you have in him and then reevaluate in the offseason who you're going to move forward with? I'm so frustrated watching this team. After the game against the Packers, he snapped on reporters and said, "You can stop asking that question. I'm going to be calling the defenses." Okay, so we're clear. And they're asking legit questions. And if you go into a press conference knowing that you're going to be bombarded with the same questions, like when do you start to look internally? And when do people higher up go, okay, maybe this isn't working. We've tried. Defense is supposed to be the name of his game, and their defense looks like ass. So why are we doing this? I rest my case.
Heard. Counselor Nick, why will he stay in Los Angeles?
May I approach the bench and just give some respect and appreciation for how she handled that single shot there?
You may, yes.
I was anxious the whole time. I never want to be put in a single shot. I like looking at you guys when I'm speaking.
That's why we enjoy doing it to you, just because it's fun.
Not many people like looking at Nick either.
Wow. Thanks, Sean.
Jesus.
Katie didn't defend me either. Again, bad defense attorney.
I just came to your defense.
That's mean. Okay.
She didn't say I do. She just said,
Nick,
that's
why
mean.
will Brandon Staley be the Chargers head coach next year?
Because the Spanos family is not quick to make decisions unless it's Marty Schottenheimer. May he rest in peace, being the head coach of a 14-2 team that can't get to the Super Bowl. I thought he was going to get fired after last year, and he needed to prove that he was worth the job this year, and they just haven't. So why will he be there? Because wow, that is loud. The coaching market kind of sucks, if we're being completely honest. The candidates are not as strong as they were in the last few years. I, for one, have looked at some of these openings and not been able to be like, oh, well, who are they going to bring in? Like, I don't know. Like, Lou Anarumo was the hot name a month and a half ago, the defensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals, and that's kind of faded. Like, there's just not the DeMeco Ryans out there right now. There's no Mike McDaniel out there right now that I can think of. Maybe Bobby Slowick, the OC in Houston, but he's kind of new to that role too. So they don't make a move because they realize that whatever's out there is not any better. Is it the right move to do that? Absolutely not. They should definitely fire him. He is not a good head coach. They are going nowhere. And as Katie said, they are wasting Justin Herbert's talent. But sometimes a change just for change's sake makes you the New York Jets. And I don't know if you want to be that.
Truer words have never been spoken. I think the lasting image of Brandon Staley's tenure with the Los Angeles Chargers will be that Week 18 game 2 years ago when Derek Carr just looks right into the sky camera, smiles, calls a timeout in overtime to kick the game-winning field goal and eliminate the Chargers and send the Raiders to the playoffs when they both could have gone to the playoffs. And then afterwards, Justin Herbert's like, were you going for the tie? Yeah, we were going for the tie. Yeah. That is the lasting image of Brandon Staley's tenure in Los Angeles. I, too, believe he will be gone. Moving on to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Ron Rivera. Nick, why will Ron Rivera be the head coach of the Washington yet-to-be-named team next year?
Probably because the market sucks, like I just said, but also because Sam Howell has not been perfect, but has shown enough to believe that he can be the future. And Ron was the guy that went with him when people like me were like, why are you going with Sam Howell? The defense has been bad. I can't make a strong case to keep him because that's supposed to be his thing, and they've been bad. They gave up
they've gotten rid of half of their defense.
Yeah, they were bad before they got rid of their two edge rushers. This was going to be a big test of a year, basically coach for your job year as soon as the ownership changed. And oftentimes when owners do change, they bring in their own guy. They change the uniforms. If you're in Cleveland, they do a number of different things. They're David Tepper and hire and fire two different coaches within the span of a year. I mean, he didn't hire Matt Rule last year, but he fired him, then fired Frank Reich before the end of his first year. So it's going to be tough to make this case. But if they look around and think there's nobody better and maybe we give him one more shot, that's probably the best way he sticks around. Or they go on a hot streak to end the year, but they looked really bad last week against Miami. And that's kind of a game where you could save your job with a win. And they've lost 4 straight. And they play the Rams, Jets, Niners, and Cowboys. And I think they lose 3 of those last 4. And they finished like 5-12, and he's gone. So I try to make a case, but I'm an honest man, much like Katie's an honest woman. And I just can't.
Katie, do you need to even say more? Will Riverboat Ron be in D.C. next year?
Well, I think his time in Washington is almost up, and I feel bad. I genuinely like who he is as a person. I don't know him personally, but he's just someone that I've always really been cheering for, and he's had a really tumultuous situation to deal with there with all of the different quarterbacks that have gone through, the whole situation with Dan Snyder. I don't even like saying that name. But like Nick said, the team is just kind of bad. There's new ownership. I think everyone will be looking for a fresh start. And when you have Eric Bieniemy there, I've been excited for years to see him step into a head coaching role. And I just think, why wouldn't you? He's been integrated in this team. It's a very obvious next step up. I would like Ron Rivera to have a bit more time, but I don't see it.
I agree. I don't think he'll be there next year. I too root for him, but I think his time is just come and gone, and that's okay. That's okay.
I don't think it's going to be Eric Bieniemy either. I don't think he's
No?
actually had a good enough year as an offensive coordinator. To
I
be
agree.
worth it.
Yeah, I think
He also
I think
rubbed a lot of
Eric
players
Bieniemy-
the wrong way early in the training camp with the way he coached.
He might have worked himself out of a job at this point.
Yeah,
forward.
he might have taken a step. It's either a lateral step or a step backward. I don't think he's done good enough. It makes sense on paper, but I just don't see. I think if they change everybody.
Moving a little bit farther up north in the metroplex that is the East Coast of the United States, Robert Saleh for the New York Jets. Nick, why won't Robert Saleh be in New York, New Jersey next year?
Nice. The Meadowlands, the swamp, East Rutherford, where all there is a stadium and a big shopping mall. It's too big for the area. His tenure with the Jets was built with excuses to keep him around because they didn't have a quarterback, and their defense has played really well, and that's his forte. But the way they have bungled the quarterback situation this year by putting all their chips in the center of the table on Aaron Rodgers, getting 4 plays out of him, and then thinking that Zach Wilson was just going to be a better quarterback by the process of osmosis has put them in such a bad place that they cannot put any points on the board, and they're almost unwatchable. They've now gone through 4 starting quarterbacks. Well, Trevor Siemian came in the middle of a game and proved that he wasn't even worth 1 start. Now they're going to go back to Zach Wilson. It's a disaster there. And for as tough as they talked going into the year, I understand they lost Rodgers and they lost their mojo, but they have been a pretty ugly operation since then. And I think that reflects poorly on the coach. So no matter how well the defense is playing, which has been playing lights out, that they've been asked to do too much, and it's just not a good team. On paper, they're better than they have been playing. And some of that reflects on the coach. I think he's been a bad CEO as a head coach, and that's why they could make changes. And if they make changes, the GM's got to be included because they were put in this position in part by the GM, who did not go get a good backup quarterback, who went and got Aaron Rodgers' friend and Tim Boyle and said Zach Wilson's there just in case. And they're paying that price. And I think the ultimate price that they could pay is losing all their jobs.
Katie, why will Robert Saleh stay with the Jets?
I'm a fan of him, but yeah, like Nick said, like the handling of that quarterback situation just baffles me. This offense is just dysfunctional and unwatchable, and what a waste of a great defense. Again, like Nick said, but Aaron Rodgers seems to like him. It seems like they've got a good relationship, so that could tie into it depending on what the Rodgers situation looks like. If the dolphin humping music helps heal his Achilles.
A sweet sound.
God.
That's like that experiment where that woman
Experiment.
lived in that partially flooded house and like apparently engaged in like intimacy with the dolphin, if there's a good way to say it. You guys ever hear about
we
that
have gotten
experiment?
way off the rails here. Katie, I hear your argument. Yeah, I think Robert Saleh will still be with the Jets next year. Aaron Rodgers signed with this team, and he has the power as a 4-time MVP to say, here's who I want in power. Here's who I want in place. And Robert Saleh is probably part of that picture. You can't blame Robert Saleh for trying out everything. Like, it is his job to turn over every rock to see what he can do to make this team work. If not this year, then next year. You're not going to win a Super Bowl with Zach Wilson or with Tim Boyle or with Trevor Siemian. Like, you're just not going to. It's not going to happen. But with Aaron Rodgers next year, and now that you've figured out what you can and can't do, maybe, yes, you can win a Super Bowl. So that's why I think Robert Saleh will stay. At the same point, before you go, Nick, real quick, at the same time, anyone look up Tim Boyle's college stats?
Yeah, they're bad.
8 touchdowns, 13 interceptions with 2 different teams.
He doesn't belong in the NFL.
He is in the NFL because he knows Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah. And by the way, somebody's got to pay for this nightmare. And I think it should be Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah.
That
I
is the
agree.
firing that I feel most confident about, even if
Yes.
he is Aaron Rodgers' buddy.
All right. I included this name on the list, and since I included it, I thought, no way this is going to happen. Now I'm thinking, man, it might happen.
Is it Kevin Stefanski? Because
it's
I was
Kevin
blown away
Stefanski.
with that. Why is he on there?
Because at the beginning of the season, his name was on the hot seat list. Now it might not be. I feel silly for putting it on there, but real quick, Nick, just obviously, I don't think Kevin Stefanski is going anywhere. But why shouldn't he be fired?
Well, you're putting Katie in a bad spot because she's
Yeah,
just
I have
so-
no answer. I've
Yeah,
never
let me
looked at it.
take the why.
Katie, I'm not even going to give you the rebuttal
Okay,
here.
no,
Just, I know
let me
he's
give you
not gonna be
give you
fired.
both sides though, Sean, because I think there's
Okay,
an
if you'd
interesting
like.
element. I came to this realization while watching them lose
But
the
be
Rams
fair.
last
Hey, be
weekend.
fair. At the beginning of the season, he was firmly on the pretty warm seat.
And a lot of it depended on how Deshaun Watson played, and Deshaun Watson got hurt twice. So you have the mulligan there. But the mulligan for last season was Deshaun Watson not being available to play because of a suspension, which you knew going into the season. The reason that I think it's still in play is when I watched the Browns lose the Rams last week while I was wrapping Bridget's gifts before she came home, as she dances to my left over here. I came to the realization that they might be the 2021 Cardinals. If you remember that team, they started off as one of the best teams in football. They were like 10-3.
Yep.
They finished 11-6. They blew a complete tire down the stretch and spun out into the playoffs and got dominated by the Rams, who went on to win the Super Bowl. That's how their season ended. And it looked like a mess of a team, like a team that didn't believe that it could win by the end of the year. And I'm not saying that that's the Browns, because Kevin Stefanski has done a remarkable job of keeping them afloat with all these quarterback changes. I mean, they've started 4 different guys now. I mean, it's the fact that they have a winning record is an incredible achievement. And he's really coached them up in certain situations to get guys open. DTR back there, PJ Walker back there. He's done a good job, but he's also single-handedly got them into losing positions with getting too cute as a play caller. I've railed against this for much of the year. You know it's going to happen. It didn't happen last week, but every other game pretty much prior to that, there's an instance or two where he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room and makes a bad call, and it directly hurts the Browns' chances of winning games. So if they blow a tire like the Cardinals did, let's say they win one more game against the Jets and they finish 8-9, then it's very much a possibility. They're just not there yet. So like Katie said, why is he on the list? Well, right now, they're 7-5. They got to start winning some football games. If they do that, then this is a nonsensical topic. But if they blow the tire like I worry that they might, then it could very much be in play.
I'm just asking questions. All right, let's do a little bit of a lightning round if you guys don't mind. So I'm just going to throw out some names. I want a safe or a fired. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
I love how this show is just being reproduced on the fly.
It's a podcast.
Producer Katie,
do whatever we want.
Katie.
Yeah, this is
all right,
my
Katie.
name.
Producer
Bill
paralegal
Belichick.
Katie.
Yes, Sean.
Bill Belichick. I said the name.
Oh, I didn't hear you.
You gotta pay attention. Come on now.
I think his seat
fault.
is scorching hot.
Scorching.
So fired or safe?
Oh, fired. Between the poor roster construction and how bad they've looked on the field, I think the time is over. And I'm surprised by that because I always thought he'd retire a Patriot. I think he's gone.
Oh, okay, Nick. Fired or safe? Bill Belichick.
Safe. You don't get rid of Tom Landry unless you make an ownership change like the Cowboys did with Jerry Jones. A reckoning could be coming, but winning tonight might have gone a long way to save his job. They look like the better coach team tonight against Mike Tomlin's team, and
They so often happen.
Was sorely needed. So
All
safe
right.
for now.
Brian Dable. Nick, fired or safe?
Safe. They lost their quarterback.
I feel like we've been saying this about a lot of coaches, though. Like we're using the quarterback as a scapegoat, which goes to what I said
valid
before
excuse.
we even started this conversation with look at all the quarterback matchups we have. So many backup quarterbacks who are finding some modicum of success. I don't know if that sticks with Brian Dable, though. I think his time in New York might be up. Katie, fired or safe?
The passing paisano has something to say about that.
Okay. Yeah.
I think his seat is very warm, but I think it's still too soon based on the bump that he had last season to this season. I think they'll give him at least one more or halfway through, whichever. But very warm, but don't think he's fired yet.
All right, let's stay in the great Empire State. Katie, Sean McDermott, fired or safe?
See, we can't lightning round this. There's so much to talk about Sean McDermott, especially today. Can we not lightning round this one? Can we talk about this one? Because I have some real feelings.
Go as long as you'd like. Go as long as you'd like.
I think his seat is very hot. And that is before the news today about the 2019 training camp, him referencing the terrorists on 9/11 and how they were great to get on the same page and orchestrate the attacks. All of it makes me uncomfortable to speak about, and I'm not even an American. But I do think his seat is very hot. He's a coach that finds new and creative ways to lose big games. A lot of it is on the defensive side, and injuries. I know they lost Matt Milano. Like they've lost some big key pieces. Teams deal with that. Their defense is simply failing them. I think he's a good coach, but something there isn't working. And he's someone that seems to really play the blame game. And I think he's running out of places to point the finger. There's a lack of aggression. There's a lack of accountability. Nick, you said it, this team's not fun to watch. And this roster, when I look at it on paper, I don't think it should be a painful watch. Something is broken with this team and the window is closing. And I don't think right now is time for complacency when you have this roster.
That's fair. I think his seat's very hot too, because they're 6-6, and this is a team that's supposed to be a Super Bowl contender, and they have not gotten out of their way in many regards. They fired their offensive coordinator, got a little bit better, lost to Denver. That's an ugly loss, even though Denver has been coming on strong as of late. They beat the Jets. They lose to the Eagles in a heartbreaker. They go into the bye at the perfect time, but like the remaining schedule sucks. Like Kansas City, Dallas, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Dolphins. They win 2 out of those 5, and they're 8-9. Like 8-9 is so far away from where we had them at like 13 wins in the preview that we did prior to the season. So a lot has gone wrong. And if they have played like a team that's out of sorts to the point where like they don't follow their coach through the door anymore. So like reading all that report today kind of made sense, where I was like, oh, maybe he had lost the locker room, and it does kind of show. And if he did and they finished 8-9, it's very much a possibility, which is crazy because they just signed extensions, him and Brandon Bean, and it's a weird spot. Speaking of our chat, Lemon Bendy, loyal viewer and listener, just tuned in, said you all think McDermott is just about finished, right?
Yeah.
They don't win the majority of their remaining games because they got to get in the playoffs to keep his job. I really do. If they don't make the playoffs, he's gone. Plain and simple, he's gone. Complete overhaul, changing in philosophy and everything else, because you have a franchise quarterback, you've got a superstar receiver, you've got a defense that should be good enough. Yeah, you lost some guys, but they are not achieving anywhere near the level they should be at right now, and that reflects poorly on the coach. It would just be a crazy outcome, but we've had crazy things happen before, so I think he's very, very warm as these lights behind me.
You know, I have to agree with you. And Katie, you said something that made a lot of sense to me. He keeps pointing the finger. He reminds me in a way of, and I know, Katie, you don't watch a lot of college football, but Nick, you might get the reference of Brian Kelly. He likes to point the finger a lot, and he is widely recognized as a very funny story. I actually met him today, Brian Kelly. He's widely regarded as a very good coach.
Sean, did he have that fake Southern accent still, or no?
He did not. No, he was actually a perfect gentleman. He answered all my questions.
Family.
He was a great interview. Nothing against Brian Kelly. He was a great interview today. I got a great interview ahead of him, and Luke Fickell from Wisconsin at the ReliaQuest Bowl press conference. But at the same time, he is known to point the finger at his players sometime, and a lot of fans go, "Why are you doing that?" And he seems to get away with it. So Sean McDermott kind of strikes me as that. He wins a lot of games, but he doesn't win the ones that matter the most. So that is why I also think his seat is very hot. And you're right, Nick. If they don't win a majority of their games going down the stretch, yeah, Buffalo might be looking for a new head coach. Although they might not want to blow it up. They might not want to blow it up.
Yeah,
let's see if we can fix it internally, because we still do have a good thing going if we can fix it.
So he has the clout from being the coach that got them back into the playoffs after that super long drought, and I get that. But like, they also have not gotten over the hump, and they've taken a step back this year. And if they don't finish strong, it's going to stand as a disappointment, a massive disappointment of the season, with no real reason for optimism. And at that point, you know, all the continuity that you built, what's that worth when your title window continues to shrink and shrink and shrink?
Right.
And it's going to be tough. They got to win those games, man. The pressure is completely on right now.
I'll tell you what, I've got one more name. It's not on our list, but can you just humor me for one more minute? And I just want your opinions. I don't want a save or a fired. I just want your honest opinions.
The
Mike
podcast
Tomlin.
in Gridiron is intended to represent us humoring Sean. Mike Tomlin, he's safe. I think he's safe.
Is that who it was going to be?
Yeah, Mike Tomlin.
Of course he's safe. It's Mike Tomlin.
He will be. I know he will be. But why should he be?
Sean,
why do we have to explain this to you right now?
No, guys, I'm starting to get there.
In terms of coaching tiers, I have him in his own Mike Tomlin tier.
I'm starting to get there.
The Tomlin tier.
The Tomlin tier.
The double T.
It's above
you know what,
one.
Katie? Thank you. But at the same time, you know what the Tomlin tier is? The Tomlin tier is a tier where you haven't won a playoff game since 2016. The Tomlin tier.
Here we go.
Is a tier in which you consistently play down to your opponents. The Tomlin tier is where you say we're about to wreak havoc in December and then lose to 2 straight 2-win teams. That's the Tomlin tier. And I have always been, ask Nick, I have always been, why are we even talking about this? His seat's not hot. He is a great coach. He's one of the best coaches in the NFL. And I still believe that. But at the same time, when do you decide, hey, we might need to go in a different direction. It's like that moment. Do you guys watch Ted
Construct
Lasso
your
at all?
roster in a different way then.
Do you watch Ted Lasso at all?
Yes.
No.
Okay. In the newest season, in the final season, where Higgins walks into the office.
Oh, I'm not caught up. No. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Okay, well, this isn't really a spoiler because the show's name is Ted Lasso. But anyway, Higgins walks into the office and says, what if I'm thinking about possibly making a coaching change? And Henning Waddingham's character goes, you want to fire Ted? And he's like, what about what I just said makes you think like I want to do any of that? Right? That's where I'm at. I don't want Mike Tomlin to leave. I don't want to see a new head coach. But I'm getting to the point where it's, hey, why are we losing to teams that have no business beating the Steelers? Why can't the Steelers win in the postseason? Why can't they get to the postseason? Why can't they figure it out?
Because you had Mitch Trubisky and Mason
At
Rudolph.
some point, though, the finger does have to point back to the head coach. He is the head coach for a reason, and I want some accountability. I think that's all Steelers fans are asking for right now.
Let's enter my confessional. Let's enter my confessional here, Sean. Your sins as Mike Tomlin are you were loyal to Matt Canada for too long, and you're allowing your
that's a demerit.
Yes, and you're allowing nice go to detention. You have your second-year quarterback who's not taking a step forward, and now he's gotten hurt, and you can't coach around it. And really, the biggest sin I think is allowing two disgruntled receivers to show it on the field because that's not Steeler culture. But Sean, this is never going to happen. This is the Steelers; they don't make changes.
That's fine, and that's fine. All I'm saying is there was like a live shot of Mike Tomlin talking to George Pickens today. I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, because they didn't have mics on, but hey, youngin, you can't be doing that. You know, you got to keep your stiff upper lip. You can't be showing those emotions on the field. What happens on the next set of downs? George Pickens does exactly that, shows that emotion in the end zone when the Steelers go for it on 4th and 2 and can't convert. He is, at some point, his message is falling on deaf ears, I'm afraid.
But
John, when that happens,
frustrated feelings doesn't represent an entire locker room that you've lost.
It's not just the receivers. It's the running backs. It's the quarterbacks. I'm starting to see cracks in the armor. I really am.
I think a lot of those cracks were created by the earthquake known as Matt Canada, which went in like a line.
And here's the thing, too. This is kind of like the same category of Sean McDermott. Do we blow this all up? Do we really blow this all up when we can fix it internally? And that's the answer the Steelers are going to have to make in the offseason. Well, I don't think they're going to make a coaching change. By all means, guys, I do not think they're going to fire Mike Tomlin, nor do I really want them to. Why? What did you say earlier, Nick? Not really a good head coaching pool out there right now.
No, it's not.
But I'll take Mike Tomlin over what else is out there.
Sean, off the top of your head, can you tell me when Chuck Noll was hired as head coach of the Steelers?
1969.
Yes. Nice. And since then, they've had how many head coaches, think you, Keith?
3.
Exactly.
But why does that have to be the rule and not the exception?
Because it's just the way the Steelers operate. If you want to point the finger at anybody, you point at the GM who's new, and you give him another year, but the coach is not the fault. He's coached.
I don't blame Omar Khan for this at all. I think Omar Khan did a great job in the draft and the offseason. Injuries have been a problem, especially on defense. Kenny Pickett, like you said, can't.
Right, but if you need a scapegoat, it's the guy that's new. It's not Mike Tomlin. He ain't going anywhere.
I think, and the seat, however, for the first time, honestly, for the first time in Mike Tomlin's career, I think the seat warmer has been turned on. It's 44 degrees in Pittsburgh, and the seat warmer has just been turned on for the first time. On low.
Level 1 is 5.
Bridget's least favorite weather, 44 and rainy. Hates it. She can't hear me. She's got her noise canceling headphones on. Smart move.
It was 43 down here the other day, and that was cold.
Oh, it's currently 41 here. All right, that wraps up our hot seat segment, which means I get to turn off these fantastic fire-inspired lights. Folks, we know what's next. Katie hates it, and we're 53 minutes into the podcast, so we're going to be pretty quick here. But it's the game show that's sweeping the nation, Swiffering the nation, stick vacuuming the nation. That's gifts that I bought for some family this year. Battery powered, and this one doesn't even need a battery. It's running on pure adrenaline and energy. You
bought your fiance a Swiffer?
No, I bought stick vacuums for my sister and my dad because they wanted them.
Okay.
It is time for America's favorite game show. They just don't know is their favorite game show yet. Who needs HQ trivia? Who needs Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy? Who needs Hollywood Squares? Uh,
Whatever happened to them?
Yeah, well, there's a documentary on HBO. You should check it out. Went down in a ball of fire. It's time for America's favorite game show, better than all the aforementioned game shows. It is.
Do you even know?
You know.
Oh, and Sean presses the button. Now we're straight.
I didn't. What
It's
is this
perfect.
timer?
It's
Guys, I'm
perfectly
sorry.
timed.
Oh my god, it was
Perfectly timed. It was good for the energy. It was good.
It
I said
was.
pure adrenaline and energy.
Sorry, this remote is controlling everything, and I have like no control over. Like it's just numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I don't know what those numbers represent. So I'm just pressing
came from
buttons,
Amazon. I have
hoping to
an
keep
LED
a
like
well-lit treat. All right, Katie. Tonight's topic on Do You Even Know is athletes, famous athletes in Christmas movies.
Cool.
Katie, are you a big fan of Christmas, by the way?
Yeah, I was gonna say like yeah.
I'm a bit of a Grinch. I'm trying to reclaim my childhood
Hey.
Christmas spirit.
Katie.
Guys,
What's your
my
favorite
last-
Christmas movie? What's your favorite Christmas movie?
Probably Elf.
Yeah,
That's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Good choice.
I've just had like a string of a few bad Christmases. Christmas Eye. What are they plural?
Katie, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear.
But when I sing, it just makes people sad. I have a very bad singing voice.
Aw. Well, I'll come to your defense and say you can sing whenever you want. I won't cringe.
I don't believe that actually, Katie. I feel like you probably like secretly have a good singing voice.
Are you like the mom in Elf who's
Yeah, I was gonna say like
Yeah, a little bit.
she's like
we all work
bells.
in media. Like I feel like we can carry a tune reasonably well.
Oh, what fun!
Maybe not
it
Nick.
is. No, that was me
Yeah.
doing an impersonation. I can sing a little bit. Okay.
All right, Katie.
I kill it in
Yeah.
karaoke, Sean. Ask Gabe. Brought the
What's your
freaking
go-to
house
karaoke
down
song?
doing Backstreet Boys with Gabe. Go ahead. It was
All right.
Backstreet Boys. I Want It That Way, and we brought the freaking house down.
That's a good karaoke song.
Tell me why. All right.
All right, Katie. In the Christmas
See?
comedy titled Office Christmas Party, one of my favorites, do you even know which famous former Chicago Bull paid a visit to a party featuring TJ Miller, Olivia Munn, and Jason Bateman?
Scottie Pippen.
Oh,
It's a good guess, actually. That's a good guess. I'm going to give you one more guess because
Dennis
this movie
Rodman.
came out.
Another good
Finish the
guess.
hint? This
Sorry.
movie came out in like 2017. So this famous Chicago Bull
Is no longer a Chicago Bull.
former, yeah.
I don't know. I gave my answers.
All right, Jimmy Buckets. It was Jimmy Butler showed up at the
Oh,
office
I
Christmas
love
party.
Jimmy Butler. His emo press day pick
Oh,
is
emo
one of my
Butler, yeah.
favorite things that's ever
Yes.
happened in the history of the NBA.
I love how more people are embracing like their former or like their former emo-ness and embracing pop punk
Yes.
music, and it's making a comeback because that means I'm cool again. I'm officially
For
cool
some of
again,
us,
guys.
it never left.
It was not a phase.
I wish I had the picture of Sean and his black dyed hair in his dorm room.
Okay, but that wasn't an emo
Sunglasses
thing.
on.
That wasn't an emo
Sunglasses
thing.
on. May have been doing a duck face.
That
Our
wasn't
guy
an emo
Madden
thing.
chimes
That was just
in.
because
What was it?
that was because I was shaving my head. Anyway,
Love that.
All right. Okay. Well, as somebody who shaves his head every 4 or 5 days. All right. Our guy Madden chimes in. Thanks for tuning in, by the way, Madden. Hope you're doing well. He said, Gridiron Christmas album win.
That's a great
Well,
question.
Look, we were inspired by the
I
Philly
really
specials.
can't stay.
And so we're going to do our own Christmas album. Maybe we'll recruit some players like they did. Can't guarantee they'll be
Yeah.
Eagles. They could be Cowboys. Don't know if Dak Prescott can sing. He is on top of my QB index. Somebody threw some slurs at me on
It's
Twitter 20 minutes ago
cold
about
outside.
that. So there's your answer.
There we go.
All right, Katie. 0 for 1. No surprise.
On track. We're right on track.
Katie, do you even know? In the Christmas movie Scrooged, this Olympic gold medalist portrays herself playing Tiny Tim. Who was it?
I haven't seen that movie.
Me neither. Sounds very 90s or 80s. So
It was
go
like
with
it was in the 80s, and it was featuring oh geez, his name is drawing a blank. Why? Oh god, Bill Murray. Thank you, Bill Murray. Featuring Bill Murray, Okay, he basically plays like a 1980s businessman, Scrooge, essentially. So think 1980s famous U.S. athletes, like big in the 80s. Like you would only know this person if you were alive in the 80s.
I was alive in the 80s as a Canadian infant. I promise you I wasn't up on the United States Olympic athletes.
Gotta guess.
Okay. No sport. We're just gonna say the Olympics is
Gymnastics.
See.
I don't know. I don't even have a pretend answer, you guys. And as listeners will know, the Olympics are my strong suit. It's too bad I didn't get this one.
Oh my goodness.
I don't even have a guess. Can we just press on to the next question?
She may or may not have the Olympic rings tattooed on her somewhere. The answer is Mary Lou Retton. 0 for 2 for the Canadian infant tonight.
I thought she was famous enough. You know that. All right.
John, we have one more chat message here from Lemon Bendy again. Bold move to lead with Baby It's Cold Outside. Well, if you know anything about
I was
Sean's
thinking
voice,
the same.
he loves to go down to the baritone, or should we say the
Baritone. Oh, yes. Anyway, Katie, do you even know which former MMA champ made an appearance as Santa Claus in Merry Christmas, Drake and Josh?
It's gonna take some time to realize.
Sean, I don't like to use my
What
pocket
if you
very often on this
look
podcast.
inside,
but
I'm
you
sure
fucking
you'll
can't.
find. Bridget's looking at me and telling me to be quiet. She gave me a death stare.
You know that my record is like 2-75 on this
You
game,
don't-
and
you don't,
that's what you go with?
You didn't, you haven't watched Drake and Josh?
And I don't like MMA. All of violent sports
All right.
like that make me deeply uncomfortable.
I'm sorry. Okay,
not a
look,
big
Katie,
UFC
in all
fan.
fairness, like 5 minutes before the pod started, Nick was like, I need
Oh,
a topic.
Here we go.
And I'm like, dude, I don't know. I'm
Blame it
all
on
pissed
Nick.
off because the Steelers lost. I'm like, you just come up with these. Like, I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, screw it. Christmas and athletes. Why not? The answer is Kimbo Slice.
R.I.P.
All right, I
So
like Kimbo
the
Slice.
town I live in is named Kimberly, and we had a pizza place for a while called Kimbo Slice. And
Aw.
it didn't make it, but isn't that a great name for a pizza place in Kimberly, British Columbia?
If I ever open a pizza place, I will name that. Although it won't have the same play.
Kimbo was our town nickname, but I wouldn't have got there. I haven't seen that movie.
You bunch
yet.
of Kimbos.
Yes.
All right,
Anyways,
well, that wraps up another rousing edition of
do you even
You
know?
know?
Another
Maybe in this
very
case-
strong performance.
And
You're
in this
welcome.
case, Katie did not. No.
We
in
would
fact.
like to thank the Canadian infant for going 0 for 3 valiantly. I swear I can speak.
I wish I could go back in time and pay far more attention to the Olympics as an infant baby in the 1980s. I'm sorry, guys.
I think that's redundant. I think infant already defines baby. Anyway, speaking of babies, F1 ran in Vegas, and we talked about it last episode, which was ages ago.
It's a terrible segue.
There is no connection.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say it. Hey, look, the podcast and Gridiron Podcast stands for humoring Sean, but somewhere in those lines in the logo, that's where we humor me. Okay. Somewhere deep within the brackets around iron. Look, let's make this quick. All right. The race was weeks ago, but for as much as we trashed the operation, which was fraught.
There was another race after Vegas, too. Like, there was Vegas, and then there was Abu Dhabi.
Yes. But the Vegas race was actually pretty good.
Yes.
The race,
Yes,
yes.
it was.
Yeah.
Everything else was chaos, but the race was good.
I was
Yes.
I was surprised, actually, because, the track layout just looked boring and bad. Like, how are they going to pass on? There's nowhere to pass on this track. It had the second most overtakes of any race this season. So good on you, Vegas. It delivered on the glitz. It delivered on the glamour. My one hope is that just make it slightly more affordable. Like, make it slightly more affordable because
Make it
all
way
the
more
videos,
affordable.
all the videos
Marco?
of people riding the escalators just to get a 5-second glimpse, and the stupid security guards yelling at people crossing the foot traffic, because you can shut down viewing of the race, but you can't shut down all of Vegas for the race, which they didn't. And it was funny to see all that, but at the same time, make it affordable. Like, let us come and see this race, because that's just you're gatekeeping a sport that Americans want to see. And I have a feeling that a lot of the audience I saw empty seats, but at the same time, it's just the 1% that can go see that race. We as a country love racing. Let us go see this race. But at the same time, I still can't get over when Crofty ended the race with what happens, or Verstappen's in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's great.
That's what I'll remember most. Verstappen's in Vegas stays in Vegas.
We would like to take this opportunity to start the GoFundMe to get the Gridiron podcast to the Vegas race next year, or the Miami race, or both.
Miami.
Coda.
Miami has a sprint race next year, Nick.
Oh, that makes it even more worth attending. All right, I'll see.
The answer is Miami. You guys are coming to Miami. End of discussion.
My question is for you guys, because I have strong feelings about this, but with Vegas, with all the glitz and the glamour and the celebrity about all of it, what's the point of Miami now? Like, I get Coda.
Money.
Right, I know, but they couldn't. Yeah, I understand it's because of money, but when you look at it from like a pure racing perspective, if you're going to go to a race, you're going to go to Vegas now that exists. I don't really understand the function of Miami anymore, because the first race, it was everyone who's anyone in the States showed up there. But now if you're going to do that, won't it be Vegas? Like, I don't really understand having Miami now that Vegas exists.
Could be both.
I guess my answer to that question, Katie, would be America's really, really big. Like, it's a big country. So, like, if you're on the West Coast, you go to Vegas. If you're not on the West Coast, you can go to Austin. Then if you're on the East Coast, you can go to Miami. So it's like, it's big.
There's other
I'm
parts of the world outside of
so
America,
sorry.
right?
That was the most obnoxious way I could mansplain that. No, but really, I think
I am Florida man.
You think about Europe and how many races it has, and the options that Europeans have to travel to all those races. It's easy, it's cheap, it's affordable, and it's quick. We don't have that luxury because we only have 3 races, even though our country is bigger than the continent of Europe. So I think that's what the point of Miami is. I'm not trying to be a smartass. Seriously, I think the point of having these multiple races, a little bit. I've always been a smartass. The point of having these multiple races is because we have the different venues. We have the glitz, we have the glamour now in Miami and in Vegas. It's different glitz and glamour, as Nick will be able to attest when he goes to a Super Bowl in Vegas this year. After having gone to
and
Miami.
maybe Katie.
Maybe Katie. Maybe.
We're waiting to find out the application.
There we go. I didn't want to jinx it, Nick.
Been made. Well, that's why I said maybe, because that absolves me of any jinx.
I might just fly out and sleep on the couch. Who knows?
Them's the rules. I think that scheduling matters, Katie. Like, I can't go to Vegas. It's in the NFL season, but I could go to Miami. It's in May. And I think what Sean mansplained actually kind of does play a part in that. And plus, like, one thing I'll explain to you that you probably don't quite understand, just because I don't know what Kimberly's like in relation to the Midwest, but people in Ohio, there are 2 great export towns for young women from the Northeast Ohio area, Nashville and Charlotte. And everybody in Ohio treats 2 destinations as their vacation spots: North and South Carolina, like Outer Banks, Myrtle Beach, or Florida. And so a lot of people will be very much looking forward to going to Miami because it's a trip to Florida. Oh, we're going to go through the cars, go really fast, like stuff like that. That's what it's going to be. That's why people go to Florida for a race in May. So I get it. And again, money, more U.S. races. I feel like we're at our maximum. Let's not add a 4th, please.
I want one.
You should be maximum. 1 preferably, but I'll accept 2. I can't accept 3.
All right, that's fair.
Okay. One more.
Let's move on from Vegas. It was weeks ago. Last thing on F1 before we close out this show. Sean has a reason to celebrate because the Florida man of the grid is confirmed to be back on the grid with Williams Racing in 2024. Logan Sargent, baby.
Logan Sargent is back in a Williams seat. You always knew he was going to be. I don't want him racing under the Stars and Stripes next year. I want him racing under the Florida state flag. I want him racing with an alligator on his helmet. I'm kidding. But it is nice to have him confirmed for next year and to, be given the opportunity to showcase what he's got, because I did see strong drives from him at times. It's not like he was, Nicholas Latifi. But at the same time,
I will not accept that on this podcast.
Fired.
I am shutting that conversation down right now. Go on.
Kick him out of the courtroom. Sargent. Kick him out of the courtroom.
Overruled.
Sean, you just got owned. You just got owned by a Canadian infant. A baby just owned you.
A former baby paralegal infant Canadian.
How does that feel?
Hey, we have to agree. It's good to see, the Stars and Stripes on the grid. It's good for the sport. It's good for the fan base here in the U.S. And I don't know. I wanted to see more of what he had, because there's other up-and-coming drivers out there, but there's always going to be, and I feel like he still has more to prove. So I'm rooting for him.
And his family has a lot of money.
His family has a lot of money.
Hopefully he doesn't get outraced by Alex Albon in nearly every race next year as he did this year.
Yep.
Sean's got nothing to say.
I got nothing.
I don't have a lot of comments because
you guys come to me like I'm like the foremost expert in Logan Sargent. I just like seeing an American driver on the grid.
You're a Florida man. He's a Florida
Katie
man.
Likes seeing Canadian drivers on the grid. I like seeing American drivers on the grid.
Get Lance Stroll out of here. He sucks.
Would you rather have Lance Stroll or Nicholas Latifi?
Nicholas Latifi.
See, there you go.
For the
I rest my case, Your Honor.
Two Florida men walk into a bar. Across the bars, two Canadians. Katie hates all of them.
No, that made me sound really hateful. I didn't mean that. I do like Lance Stroll, and I cheer for him. I shouldn't have said that. I don't like Lawrence Stroll. We've gone over this.
My interactions with Canadians at a bar start and stop at a club in Estonia, where the Canadians cornered me in a bathroom and were like, "You're American? Yeah. Where are you from? Pittsburgh. Oh my God, Sidney Crosby. Yep, he exists. Yeah. Cool, guys. Good talk."
That was a night.
And then every time they saw me at the club there on after, they said,
Sidney Crosby.
I'm like, yes, he exists. What do you want? Like, just cool.
All right, last segment of the day. Hate it or love it. Katie, what's your hate?
Can we come back to me? I had one and I forgot it.
Yeah, Sean, what's your hate?
The Pittsburgh Steelers.
Why, Sean? What happened?
Sean's usually the longest winded in this segment, but I'll take that as your start and finish of your hate. We've already talked about it. We don't need to go over it again. Enjoy your sleep with your team that has lost to two teams that it shouldn't have lost to. My hate is daylight savings time. It sucks that it is getting dark early. Bottom line. That's it.
It was like 3 weeks ago, Nick.
4:35 p.m. It's dark, and it messes with my brain. That's my hate. Katie, what's your love?
I still haven't remembered my hate. It'll come to me at like 3 a.m. But we just had a bunch of snow, and then we had a bunch of rain, and it washed the snow away, and then it's gonna freeze and get all super dangerous and awful, and yeah, hate that. My love, I just started watching The Crown.
Oh
God, is it good? I'm just about to finish season 1, and hate, not a big fan of the royal family. I've never been a big fan of them. I don't get it. I have so many icky feelings about that, but I love all the tea. I love all the drama behind it. I think the acting is really amazing, and just the costume design and the makeup and all of it I find just really interesting, and I keep having to pause the show to Google things like their relationship. And it's so cool how they've integrated things into the show. Like, I just think it's so brilliant. But yeah, I'm getting to watch that for the first time, and I still have many seasons to go. And as soon as this podcast wraps up, I'm going to watch the end of the Canucks game and then watch like 3 more episodes of The Crown. It is so good.
My favorite part, one of them, was, I think it was the last season. This isn't a spoiler, but like they were talking, the Queen and Prince, who is her husband? What was his name?
Philip,
yes. Philip, who they're married, and they were talking. Wait till Diana comes into the picture. Oh
I know,
my
I
God,
can't
just wait
wait.
till Diana comes into the picture.
I love
And she's reading a tabloid, and she's like, "Oh, I guess their marriage is taking a turn for the better. They're out on a yacht with Billy Joel." And Philip looks up and goes, "Joel, what? Billy Joel, Uptown Girl?"
Oh yes, Billy
she's like,
Joel.
I have no idea what that means. I'm like, and just the back and forth. No, I love that show too, Katie. What I love, the Pittsburgh Steelers. What I also love is
Piano Man.
Huh?
Piano Man. You love Piano Man.
I do love Piano Man. I love seeing. Oh, I am going to see Billy Joel actually here in February.
You mean Billy
Aaron's.
Joel?
Billy Joel, yes. Him and Sting are doing a one-night-only concert here in Tampa,
What?
and that is Aaron's Christmas present.
That's a great
Yeah.
gift.
I know, right? Anyway, my love, aside from the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I also hate, who I also love, is I love those little moments in sports that remind you why you fell in love with sports in the first place.
What was
So
yours? that
last
happened?
week, what's up?
Oh, I just said, what was yours that happened? I agree. I love that too.
So last week, I went to a hockey game here in Tampa. The Penguins were in town playing the Lightning, and of course, I'm decked out in black and gold and stuff. And the Penguins were winning 3-2 with time winding down. Bolts had an empty net, and all of a sudden, there's a shot on goal. Tristan Jarry just corrals the puck, and as soon as he just corrals the puck, I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, he's not going to. And he does. He just launches the puck 211 feet down the ice. And as soon as it came off his stick, don't ask me how I knew, but sitting on the opposite end, staring right at that goal, I just knew it was going in. I'm like, oh my God. And as soon as it bounced on the ice for the first time, I was like, that's in. That is in. Me and every other Penguins fan in that arena started going nuts, absolutely nuts. My girlfriend sitting right next to me was like celebrating, but like she had no idea what just happened. She knew the Penguins had scored, but she didn't know like what had happened, who had scored, and what that meant. That was the first goalie in Penguins history to score a goalie goal. That was the 17th goalie in NHL history to score a goal. It's those little moments that remind me why I got into this business in the first place, why I started this podcast in the first place with Nick, just why I love what I do so much. And you kind of remember that when you fall asleep later that night and go, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I totally support that. I agree 100%. I have that moment at the Super Bowl every year. Right before kickoff, I get super emotional. And like,
I'm at the Super Bowl every year.
Oh my God, I'm at the Super Bowl. And I've been to 3 Super Bowls, and every single one, I have the same reaction. I think, all right, this is the year I'll be fine. I've seen it. I've done it. Same thing every time. The groundswell of emotion.
I hope you never lose that.
No, you know what?
That's
Hey,
so
Katie, that twinkle in my eye will always be there.
Nick, back in Miami, I had the same exact feeling, and hopefully, I know I'll be back at one eventually, but like I hope I don't lose that feeling as well, because the camera flashes go off, and you're just like, wow, this is
yeah.
I've made it.
Something else. It's something else. Hey, come here. Come here. She's
Yeah,
not coming over here.
I know what Nick's love is.
My love is Bridget is back.
Yeah.
She was gone for nearly 4 months, roughly 14 weeks. I went out there and saw her twice. She refuses to get out of her chair because she doesn't like to be on camera. She doesn't like to show up in the frame on this podcast, which I understand why. But after such a long time apart, it was euphoric to drive to the airport on Tuesday to pick her up.
Aw.
And I actually told her last night when we were sitting on the couch, I kept looking over at her and I was like, I have to keep looking at you because it kind of feels like a dream that you're even here. Because she'd just been gone for so long. I was just like, oh my God, you're back. It's
Now,
amazing.
be honest. Was her reaction? Shut up.
No, she just smiled like one of those
Aw.
like smiles.
We
So,
love Bridget on this podcast.
and she graduates next week. Big moment for her, big achievement.
All
She's getting her
right.
doctorate
That's amazing.
in physical therapy. So big time, big
Do it
time, big
all.
We
time.
love that for Bridget.
For the superstar sitting over here who won't come on camera. So that's my love.
Oh.
All right, that's it. That's episode 21. We came, we saw, we conquered. We learned that Katie, deep down, is a Canadian infant. Sean, how do we end this? Former baby, Katie Caldwell.
Former baby. For Nick Shook, For former Canadian infant baby Katie Caldwell, I'm Sean Baird. This has been episode 21 of the Gridiron Podcast. I don't know. We'll see you next week, maybe, possibly.
One quick
Good night,
final
Canada.
note: my Instagram profile header for
Guys, always do this.
for like 2 years, the only thing I had as my Instagram bio was former baby. Good night, everybody.
Live life in the fast lane. We'll see ya.